Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Dave Martin, CEO, Nettra Media. Dave, welcome to E-Coffee with Experts. It's great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here.
Dave, before we dive in, today I want to kind of, talk about, Google AdWords mostly, with you. But before we dive in into the questions, great if you could introduce yourself, and your company for our viewers.
Yeah, my name is Dave Martin, and I'm the CEO of Nettra Media. We are a full-fledged marketing agency, digital, traditional, really focused more on the digital side. We were founded back in 2012, mainly as a website building company. And as people love the websites, but their business didn't increase after 6 months, we started to realize the need of doing digital advertising as well, and SEO and things like that. So fast forward since then, we are now Google, Facebook partners and have spent over $19 million on both platforms, SEO experts, and even just lead generation, business development kind of strategy experts. And so companies usually hire us when they want more potential customers, also brand awareness, and a mix of the two. So,
yeah, I mean, on your website, I was seeing guerrilla marketing. I mean, if you could talk a bit about that as well.
Yeah, so guerrilla marketing is kind of a old-fashioned term, but ultimately what it encompasses is everything else. So, I mean, most agencies focus on selling media and SEO because they work. But at the same time, we've never had a client where they get more than 30% of their customers with advertising. Advertising is usually a fairly expensive way to create clients. And especially with the iOS 14.5 update, we see some of our clients, even with Facebook, that it's really hard to target them now. And so we try to come up with other ideas that are a bit outside the typical box, ideas that work because nobody else is doing them. And so oftentimes those kinds of ideas will find their ways into setting up very unique referral generating strategies or business development, business partnership strategies. Guerrilla can also get into other like outdoor kinds of advertising, but we like to focus more on the biz dev and referral side of things and approach it in ways that are very unique.
Right, makes sense. Dave, what is your favorite client story?
My favorite client story. Well, let's see here. One of our clients is it's a moving company, and we have actually a few different client stories that I could share, but on a local side, we have a moving company, and on more of a regional side, we have a finance, a credit union. So on the local side, this moving company, they wanted to grow and compete with the national moving companies that really have a stranglehold on most local markets. And between SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, and some business development, cold lead generation outreach, they are the between number one and number three ranking moving company within Central California. So it was a huge task. That it's interesting because we saw on the SEO side, they shot up in the ranks quicker than we thought they would. And then they went back down again, which I don't know if you guys have seen that before, where you're almost like, this is almost too good of a result. And then you start fearing the inverse, that it's not going to stick. Like there's going to be another algorithm update. Absolutely. And it's just not. And that's what happened. They shot up within 3 months. I mean, like number one for 80% of the keywords to where they were not ranking on page one for almost anything. But then I'd say that was within 3 months of the campaign. And then after the campaign had been going for about 3-4 months, they started to go down again. And so then we were scrambling like, Number one, why'd they shoot up so quickly? Number two, why are they going down again? And so we went back and we saw a big lift with schema markup, which is funny because you've heard different things of schema, whether it's, do you really have to do it anymore? And all these kinds of things, or no, schema is better for larger companies with 1,000 plus pages on a website. But we saw with this client that it made a big difference. We also started focusing on locally sourced backlinks, not just buying them, but really trying to get real backlinks. And so we've seen a huge turnaround so that they're now back to ranking very, very high. We supplement that with Google Ads because, of course, they're not going to rank for everything.
Right.
And then, of course, we have a lead generation side that I could get into a little bit later that involves more cold email outreach that we're seeing big results with right now. On the other side, with a credit union, they're the largest credit union in Central California, and they were not doing much in the way of digital marketing. And fast forward, they're the leading credit union, and they're quickly growing and outpacing. They're actually one of the fastest growing credit unions now in California. And so it's amazing to run all of their digital marketing and see the kind of growth that they have. So we, as a company, we have a lot more kind of middle-sized clients, but we have some smaller ones as well. So I thought I'd give you two success stories.
No, absolutely. It's good to know, and thank you for sharing that. Coming to Google AdWords that we really want to discuss. I mean, what trends are you seeing recently in AdWords?
So the thing with AdWords is we're seeing, well, there's a couple trends. The cost per click is going up. CPMs and things like that, we don't track as much as cost per click, but we're seeing cost per click go up. And I think it's because Google has realized that their environment, it has never been as user-friendly as the Facebook advertising platform. And they have spent a ton of time that we have seen probably in the last 2 years to make it a lot easier. So we all know AdWords Express. And, when you sold against it as an agency, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, there's 7 positions for ads. If you want your ads on the bottom, use AdWords Express. If you want to use an agency like ours, that's when we're talking about the top 3 positions. But I'd say one of the biggest trends that we see is Google's automated ad platform, and where basically they say, hey, we see what you're trying to do, optimizing these ads. Let us optimize these for you. And of course, we're using campaign data. Let's say we're of a credit union. We have some credit union clients, so we're able to, take some of that data. And then Google, but then on the other hand, they say, well, we've got 10,000 of these campaigns running at once, and we're going to optimize that based on what we see. And so that's what I see when it comes to PPC ads. And I include Facebook, digital ads, Instagram in that as well, is that both Google and Facebook have an AI aspect that you cannot ignore anymore. You cannot say that the human is going to win every time. I do think that it's not like, oh, agencies are going away. If anything, it allows us to manage more campaigns optimized more quickly and make quicker decisions based on what wins and what doesn't. But the days of ignoring Google and their AI solution, those are long gone. So that's what I'm seeing from our perspective, is that using that AI ad set on both Facebook and Google to further optimize our campaigns. And we're seeing the CPCs getting driven down, especially on Facebook and Instagram. On the CPM side, we have a couple campaigns that the CPM was driven down by almost 300%, which is crazy. So in other words, it just means that we get a lot more clicks for the dollar.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think with Google also, they, like you said, I mean, they kind of are also limiting a lot of data. And like with the recent changes, like earlier there was a lot of data available that we could use for manual bidding and campaigns. But now I think they want users to use more of their automated solutions. So absolutely makes sense.
Right.
Right. I mean, talking about AdWords, what are your thoughts on the recent changes to the match types? Because, we are seeing some changes recently.
Yeah. I mean, we have clients that are scattered between probably 13 or 14 different industries. And so the results are not conclusive enough to say, oh, this is a great cause of events, or no, we're not using them. I do say initially, though, we are seeing some positive results using that. I mean, part of me wonders if there's some sinister thing with Google that if you play ball with them, that just because you play ball, your ads do better. It's not AI, it's just there's somebody pressing a button that puts your ads in some other category, allowing it to do better. And that the AI is not as sophisticated as Google I don't know, this is probably very un-Google partner of me to say, right? But we try and play ball with Google the best we can. I guess that's probably the best way to say it. But, you also see it with SEO. Like, for instance,
Absolutely.
It's bad SEO now to put a location in an H1 tag.
Yeah.
Best chiropractor in Los Angeles, California. We know it, and it looks crappy. It sucks for user experience, but I'm sorry, those still to this day perform better. Or I shouldn't say 100%, but we have clients where we've tested this. And so my point is, Google says one thing, and I wonder if it's like, this is kind of where we're shooting for, so get on board, versus they put it out like this is how it is. And so we kind of take that kind of wait and see approach from the SEO perspective. But from the ad perspective with Google, we try and play ball the best we can, because we often see more success by doing that.
No, I agree. And I totally agree on your location and H1 point. Again, next time when we're talking about SEO, I mean, maybe we can dive deep into it, but I totally agree. We did some similar tests, in SEO where, definitely there were some things that we found are still working, and, like are still some good hacks that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Dave, coming back to the AdWords again, landing pages are very important, because at the end of the day, that's where you're driving the traffic and you're getting conversions. Now, a lot of people, again, I understand it. It's based on the campaign, and what your end goal is. But like a lot of people use a lot of tools to create like quick landing pages and do A/B testing. Some believe no, I mean, you need to spend time and create like custom landing pages. But overall, when you work on campaigns, what is your approach towards landing pages? What do you look at? I mean, how do you go about it?
Right. So it kind of depends on the size of the client and their goals. So for instance, if it's a smaller to medium sized company, that's a lot of traffic we're pushing to their website, assuming that we're doing a lot of different PPC and digital ad campaigns. And traditionally, you hear that ad traffic does not factor into SEO, but we have seen the opposite. And so I look at it like, well, that's traffic going to your site. I'd rather have it go to your domain than some subdomain on some landing page that we created. On the other hand, on larger clients that we have, usually their content is so siloed and so segmented that there's not one page that can just try and convert somebody to calling or emailing. So oftentimes we have to take elements of 3 or 4 pages and put them into one. And so that's where the landing page would come into play. And so we tend to err on the side of using your website. But if the content, the UX, if there's not a lot of great assets, like social proof assets, like videos and testimonials and things like that, then we would just create that ourselves.
I understand. Remarketing is like, very crucial, when it comes to campaign, especially paid campaigns. How do you think a business can build a successful remarketing strategy, when it comes to AdWords and paid?
Oh man, they're just screwed, man. No, and since the iOS 14.5, I think that's what a lot of people are saying is that, man, where remarketing was versus where it is. So I think number one, we have to make a delineation that iOS does not apply to desktop devices. So you're alive and well when it comes to retargeting, remarketing, same thing on those devices. But we all kind of think that in the future, like in the next year, it probably will be adopted on desktop side. There's also speculation, as I'm sure you know, that Android's going to be doing the same thing. So yes, targeting parameters are tough. And so what we find is if you paint the classic sales funnel of, being at the very top of the funnel, like a billboard or a TV ad, all the way to the bottom, like a Google ad. Facebook has traditionally been either in the middle, or if you've got a really solid retargeting campaign that's been cleaned every month with data for a few years, you might be kind of like middle to bottom with a campaign like that. What's happened is it's just pushed it higher up the funnel. So you're now middle or middle higher in the funnel. So ways to enrich that is, I know it's old school, but trying to get people's email addresses, because if you come to the table with data, in other words, if I've got 5,000 email addresses, I can load them into Facebook as a targeting parameter. So I can always do that because I'm introducing data to Facebook. So that's really the game is how do you enrich this data? And so one, we focus on emails. But there's always limited. People are always wanting more than they have, and it only goes so far. And usually, of 5,000 emails, 25% align, and that's hardly enough to make any campaign on. So the other side of this would be more drilling down to tracking KPIs, and so that's where many agencies are no longer just reporting on impressions and clicks. But what we try and do is we use DataBox, which is just a API aggregation software, but for everything that we're doing, because what we're trying to do is define micro conversions, which of course make the Google ads perform better. But from a client perspective, we're trying to define these micro conversions and see, okay, not just how many sales have you gotten, but let's track all of these things. And so instead of having Facebook enrich data behind the curtain and relying on that, we're trying to take some of that data enrichment with the client side. And so, yeah, DataBox is great for that. Working with the client to come up with these conversion metrics is essential. But all that being said, that can't replace what was just a handful of months ago.
Used to be. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it can't. And so, you know what? Hey, at least it's a level playing field for everybody.
Yeah.
But so that's the race now, is how do we enrich the data on our side? And so those are some of the things that we do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Dave, what are your thoughts on local search ads? Local search ads are gaining popularity. How do you look at them?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's not a ton of data as to how well those work. I mean, I could tell you anecdotally from our clients that it's a bit hit and miss. Personal injury attorneys, which of course traditionally spend a lot of money on Google ads, we saw those work about a year or so ago. But now that they're kind of being flooded, they don't work quite as well. When you factor in cost per click, we've seen that go up quite a bit. But in some industries like HVAC, and any kind of like, I need it now kind of service. Like if you're a plumber, or I'm sorry, if the pipe in your sink broke, you don't care about Google reviews. You're wondering how quickly can I get there? If you're that kind of service, HVAC is another one. They're very effective. They're very effective. So where I think if there was some kind of delineation, it would be if a service requires more research from the customer, I think the effectiveness of those ads go down.
Right, like a lawyer,
But
you know.
yeah, but it's a little anecdotal. I don't have a ton of data to support one way or the other.
No, but I think you know, like even like, you know, the tests we have done, or you know, like talking to a lot of other marketers also, I think it kind of is, you know, everybody has had the same results, you know, like you said, if it's a service that is needed now, you know, I mean, it is working like very well. But, you
Right.
know, something like, let's say, a dentist or a lawyer or a chiropractor, where, you know, a person needs more information, you know, I mean, it kind of is not working that well.
Right. It's kind of, I guess from the client side though, it's legit. I mean, in some ways, it's more legit than a Google ad. I mean, anybody can do a Google ad, but to do these location ads, I mean, you've got to fill out a ton of paperwork, the whole Pinkerton process. And if you've got like 50 employees, I mean, that's a big thing. So to go through that, to be able to get this to be, you know, have the green check mark from Google, there is something to be said for that. From a marketing perspective, I wouldn't hang my hat on that one tactic, but it's worth pursuing, I think, if you're a company and you haven't done that yet.
Right. Dave, any suggested tools for click fraud protection?
For click fraud protection, what do you guys use?
We use something called as I forgot the name. ClickSees. Yeah, we use ClickSees.
Okay.
Yeah, so we use
Yeah.
ClickSees. I mean, again, you know, we did try a couple of other ones, but I think, you know, ClickSees so far we kind of have liked the results, you know, when we compared it. But yeah, I mean, just wanted to know, I mean, if you're using anyone and what your thoughts are on it.
Is that Click SYS?
Just a minute.
How do you spell that? I'm going to look it up here. I know you're interviewing me, right?
Yeah, but, no problem.
Well, so this is the difference of interviewing me versus our marketing manager, right? Like I'm not the guy that's in the account every day or anything. So
no, absolutely. No, just no, it's CEASE. So clickseas.com, ClickCacsE.com.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for the tip. I have it up right now. I'll take a look at it.
No problem. In fact, I am testing a few others as well. Yesterday, my team gave me a tool to test. I don't know the name. I'll have to check my email, but I'll definitely send it to you if I see good results. Apparently, it is a UK-based small company, you know, run by a few people, but apparently, I think their results are much better. And also, I think they even help you in submitting, you know, when you are getting like, when you're being charged for negative clicks, like, you know, you can submit these reports to Google and like ask for a refund and stuff. So they're even helping do that as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm testing that tool now. I forgot the name. I just got it today from my team. If I, you know, come across a tool that I feel is better than ClickSeals, I'll definitely let you know.
That helps. Yeah. Yeah, I like their website with the little lambs that are doing some they're on a computer, then every third lamb becomes a wolf. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Because yeah, I mean, I think like the reason now we are trying different tools for click fraud is that some of our clients, you know, are like in industries where there's a lot of you know, like negative and competitors doing clicks happening. So,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of saw a lot of loss there. And, we realized that, like using other tools where, like you're using like tools like Albacross and other tools where, you for remarketing and try to see the IPs and stuff. So we could
Mm-hmm.
see that it was, actually a bot and not a real click. So, that's why we had to kind of, look for tools to help us out.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. So Dave, last question. Any special tips that you can give our viewers that they can quickly implement and gain benefits from?
Yeah, I mean, I would say from a lead generation standpoint, it's kind of crazy, but right now we're seeing a bigger lift with we're utilizing cold email outreach, which I know we kind of wanted to talk just about Google Ads in this conversation, but because it's kind of a new thing that not a ton of people are doing with great success, we're seeing it outpace Google Ads in some cases. And we're talking sequenced emails that are cold, people you've never done business with 40 to 50% open rates, which is just ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. So I'd say for companies that are looking to create new customer acquisition channels to look into cold email outreach, number one. When it comes to Google, we're seeing a lot of success with going after medium to longer tail keywords, and not bidding on the basic keywords, and also not taking Google's advice, because they always try to get you to expand your budget. They'll always suggest new keywords, but going after kind of the medium and long tail, especially if there's a good amount of inventory for them, we see the cost per client with transactions or campaigns like that continually outpace going after the big time keywords where you're spending a ton of money. Yeah, you're getting more clicks. Yeah, you're getting more sales. But when you factor in the cost per click, the cost to acquire those clients is sometimes 3 times more. And I'm talking more, we specialize more in B2B. So I'm talking more B2B kind of outreach. But that would be a tip, is going, if you can go across the United States, focused on the medium to long tail keywords and stick with the ones that you choose for at least 2 to 3 months. Resist Google's temptation to add more to it, and first establish the cost of acquiring a client with that, and then add maybe more of the more abundant keywords that are searched.
Well, definitely helps. Thank you so much for that, Dave. And it was great having you. Hopefully, we'll like, get in touch with you again and, talk about like SEO and like maybe email marketing next.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.